That's right.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, well, so then you go.
It's 6:30. I'll call this meeting to order Monday, June 3rd, 2024, Winter City Council. At this time, I'll ask Chandra to take roll call.
Councilman Clay?
Here.
Councilman Hughes? Aye. Councilman Clunt?
Here.
Councilman Myers?
Present.
Miners, sorry. Councilman Schuyler?
Present.
Councilman Shaheen?
Here.
Now, if you'd please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council, at this time, I'd ask if there's any conflicts of interest in tonight's agenda. Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Moved by Schuyler and second by Hughes to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Carries. Now I'd entertain a motion to approve the meeting's agenda for tonight.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
On the consent agenda, could we please note that the Board of Adjustments public hearing for June 17th? I apologize, I was looking at the wrong calendar. I was looking at May, not June, so it should be June 17th, not June 20th.
Okay, so in the consent agenda, let it be noted that June 17th is the public hearing for Board of Adjustments. Thank you for that, Chandra. Now could we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make that motion.
And a second?
I'll second that.
Motion by Miners, second by Schuyler to approve tonight's agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
We need to add some. So the first thing is I did hand out to full council what your motion should be for awarding the bid tonight for the airport pavement improvement project. And that's item number 8 under new business. Item number 9 under new business would be to authorize the mayor to sign the FAA grant application, FAA grant offer, and all necessary paperwork for the construction contract documents. Both of those motions are worded for you because that was a lot of information for you to write down that I just said. So they are printed in front of you for anyone who wants to do that once we've done the bid notification. The second item is we are requesting that you add $2,000 to the claims list to Mason Jurashik for the city attorney contract.
Y'all get that figured out? Okay.
Do you amend your motion?
Would you
to-
amend your
I
motion,
will.
I
Mr.
will
Miners.
too.
Miners and
Yes.
Schuyler?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor with those changes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Okay, at this time, we'll have a 10-minute window for public input if anybody would like to speak directly to the council. Having no one approach the microphone, we'll move on to the June 2024 propane award. Chandra?
Council and Mayor, there was only one bid received for June 2024 propane, and that was from Schaefer for $1.30 for the month of June per gallon.
Okay. And again, Chandra, I'll call on you to give us a report of any new hires within the city.
Yes, let me pull that up. New hire list that has been approved and all paperwork completed for the previous 2 weeks. John Wes Yuri in the Communications Department, part-time, no benefits, 6-month probation at starting wage of $20.93. And Joshua Herman in the Corrections Department, part-time, no benefits, 6-month probation at starting wage of $20.93.
Okay, very good. At this time, I'd call on Mitch Miller to start us off with our department reports, Public Safety Commissioner.
Good evening, City Council. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to give you a report. I just want to preface this with, I do indeed appreciate this challenge that you have presented to me in this occupation. I give you my word that I will do my very best to make this place a better place than it was when I came to it. I handed out to you a printout of the 3 out of 4 departments that I oversee. The first one's going to be the 911 PSAP department. You can notice there's 2 pages attached to such, and there were 2,100 total calls for the month of May. An interesting thing, guys and gals, is that we met with a 911 coordinator in the middle part, or about a week and a half ago. And what this coordinator's job was to do was to audit our systems, our bookkeepings, and make sure things were up to date, and they were. The benefit, as is spelled out in the words in front of you, is that we do indeed receive a little bigger piece of the 911 statewide funds for doing so. So that is an accolade for our department. So, yeah, as I mentioned, there are 2,191 total calls that came through the various departments that we contract with. If you wouldn't mind flipping to the 3rd page, please. And that is the corrections department. And you can see that today's count is 153 inmates. And for the month, that means 153 average, and for the year is 159. You can see the next paragraph, we have that as activities. That's moving inmates in and out around to wherever it needs to be. Quite a little bit of that this month. The jail billing for the month of May, $381,788 is the revenue that we are expecting. And add that to the transports, which would be $13,176. Talking with Jeff, that's a little bit less than what he sometimes takes in, and I'm learning this as I go, so.
Hey, Mitch?
Sir.
What's our capacity there? I mean, I'm unaware.
169?
169?
That's every bed there, Dick, so. So the additional information, they got listed on the bottom, CPR AED certification for staff, and then med, I guess it's like a first responder thing that Mr. Rehack's student is taking, and that's what they are working on as well there, so. Flip the page, please. And we will finish with the police department. Those 4 things, and the one that I want you to key on is number 4, please. Where it says all 4 of our SUV patrol vehicles have required repairs over the past month. The 2014 and the 2018 Explorers are getting worn out, and the 2 2020 Explorers have always had issues. We're going to be pushing hard to get a replacement patrol vehicle come budget season. We are in need of that, and we will handle that through the budgetary process. So the last page is the calls for service that the Winter Police Department initiated. It's alphabetical through the 911 hang-ups all the way through the welfare checks for a total of 426 call for services that were initiated or received by the Winter Police Department. Questions?
Was that audit done in previous years, or is that something new?
As far as I know, it was done every year.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And Public Works Director Troy Kruger, we'd ask you for your report, please.
Hello, everyone. Water and Sewer Department. Been trying to keep up with the mosquitoes, and they've been putting out a lot of larva treatment for the juveniles. Pool's open June 1st. We had a turnout, I guess. I was not in town, but sounds like we had a good opening. Water main on Washington Street. So for new council members, we've done this in the water department for the last 5 or 6 years, where we'll pick out our worst sewers in town, water mains, and we do the work ourselves. We're focusing on Washington Street this year. We completed 1 block last week from 5th to 6th. We'll be moving down the street from 5th to 4th, and then we have about a quarter of a block on 4th, and then Washington will be all PVC, all new water main to the highway. And then we'll move up to A Street behind Super Duper. We have a piece of water main up there that we suspect is leaking, and it's given some issues to the Super Duper grocery store, so we'll be going after that one later on this summer. They've been doing some spraying and for weeds and some other pest control out at the lagoons. Streets and sanitation. After our milling project last year up on the southwest part of town, we had a big pile of millings in Bailey's Field parking lot. We have a ball tournament coming up in June, so we want to get those millings out of there, so we've been hauling those, putting some in alleyways and hauling some to our stockpile down here. Landfill's been busy, a lot of people coming out there with grass, trees, so they've been pushing that stuff up and keeping that organized. They also helped with the water main project. Maintain the dump road. We try and at least once a month during the summer, we drag the magnet down dump road, and then we keep the ditches mowed, and then we work up Kelly runs his grader down the dump road to keep that, because there's a lot of city traffic going up and down that road. Hauled grass for the Parks Department, ran the streets, the sweeper. They helped cut down a couple dead trees in the cemetery, and then the recycle center's also been very active lately. Parks and Cemetery, they've just been really busy keeping up with the parks and the ball games, mowing and weed eating. Couple of funerals. Been mowing some lots for code enforcement. Put the dock back in the bass pond. We got some potted plants out on Main Street, and worked on the rocks on Main Street and the playground, just trying to get those places weeds picked and looking nice. Light Department, they're kind of wrapping up with that south end of the golf course. We wanted to get in there and get that project complete before the houses start getting, there's one house being built up there, another one, I guess, soon to come, so all they have left to do up there, all the tie-ins are done. It's actually working on the underground right now. We just have to get the poles and the lines out, and they're gonna probably get that done this week. So the junction boxes and the overheads coming down. Street light repairs, summer's here, so we get a lot of calls on street lights. Clean the shop, and we've had a couple pieces of equipment that we've had to have worked on. And they've moved over to Roosevelt now, and they're doing some boring and trenching on Roosevelt. The goal on Roosevelt is to get some tie-ins done over there. And then we have a lack of street lights on 10th Street. We've had a lot of people call in over the years. 10th Street's not lit up very well, so we're going to, after we get that underground over there, we're going to put up some more lights on 10th Street. That's our, trying to get that accomplished this summer. Electrical department, we've taken out some meters, and Ray's cleaned those up, put them back in the inventory. He's had a lot of locates. There's actually a lot of construction work going on in winter right now, so he does the electrical locates. Working with Landis and Gear on some Tech Studio stuff for some of our metering. We had a service repair at 667 West 6th Street, and he's been helping up in the office, Holly, in the fuel system, so we can get everything billed out accordingly. That's about it. Any questions?
Troy, I had a couple people ask if the speed limit sign was gonna get put back up out by Harry K.
We've ordered a solar kit for that,
Okay,
so.
so someday it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I can only speak for myself, Troy, but you generally only hear negative comments, but I did hear some positive comments about the cemetery over Memorial Day weekend. I was out of town. From what I saw, it looked really good, and there was positive comments to me. So, like I said, I don't know what anybody else heard, but tell your guys, your cemetery crew, everybody that helped, great job. And Rain helped too, but everything looks good. Weeds are under control. Good job, thank you.
Yeah, I actually took quite a few calls from the public, a lot of comments, so.
Okay, thank you, Troy. Now we'll hear from the Finance Officer, Chandra Phillips.
Believe it or not, I actually don't have much to talk to you about. I could, but instead, I'm going to let Mike Schmidt, our airport engineer, talk on my behalf. He's going to go through what some of the requirements from the FAA are on airport protection and what we need to do, about a meeting that we had this afternoon with Mitch and code enforcement and some other officials, and also go a little bit into detail on the airport pavement bid tab that you have in front of you and talk to you about that project. So you're up. They're excited it's not me.
Well, good evening. Chandra said, my name is Mike Schmidt. I'm a project manager and associate with Helms and Associates in Aberdeen. We're your airport consultants. Got a few new faces, so pleasure to meet you guys. It's been a real exciting time to work with the city on their airport. An airport I think the entire community should be really proud of. It's very unique across the state. And I'm sure if you had a few minutes, Dave Howard would tell you all about the things that are going on out there. It's quite a happening place for a airport in the town the size of Winter, South Dakota. So, Chandra touched about it. I'll try not to be too long-winded, so get you guys out of here at a decent time. But the first thing I was going to talk to you about is, and I hate to use the infamous Z word, but that's what the DOT called it, was a zoning study for airports, particularly just for airport protection for the aeronautical surfaces that apply to each airport. City of Winter is not uncommon across the state that currently you have no city or county zoning requirements, zoning protections for the airport. So right now, an aircraft that flies into runway 13 or 31, which is your primary concrete runway, at a mile out from the airport, they can be 250 feet above the ground, and they have to make a determination at that point if they can see the runway to safely land. Otherwise, they fly what's called a missed approach procedure. They can circle around and try to come in again, or they'd have to divert to another airport. Big thing for protection of your airport is going to be to protect those approach procedures. And Dave, certainly you could jump up and comment on that anytime, but any obstructions, things like that impact your approach procedures, which are kind of a plane that comes off of your end of your runway out and up at a certain slope, could impact the approach minimum. So then your approach minimum might be a mile out, maybe they gotta be 600-700 feet high, any that's determined by the FAA. We want to make sure that the city protects their airport and their airspace as much as they can. Not only because it protects the airport, because it is part of your grant assurances that the city accepts every time you accept a federal grant, that you're gonna do these certain things to protect your airport, you're gonna do these certain things like charge a fair market value for lease rates, you're gonna treat all tenants the same. There's like 32 different grant assurances, and one of them is to protect your airport. And that's the whole premise of the DOT study, was to, how can we help airports protect themselves? So again, Winter is not, this isn't a pick on Winter, South Dakota, this is most every airport in the state doesn't have protection through zoning efforts. As Chandra said earlier, we met with some officials from the county as well. Nothing, we're deciding, okay, this is what we're gonna do, this is how we're gonna get it done. This was just an icebreaker conversation. And it was a very good conversation with the county. It was kind of like a meeting to schedule another meeting, if you look at it that way. Just to kind of open up the dialogue on what the state is looking for, and then how can the city and county work together to achieve that. I think, Chandra, is that kind of fair assessment of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when the state put this in this report, you can get on the DOT's website, you can pull the report that they had done. Right now, there's no real teeth behind it, like there's no deadline that says you have to have this done by this date. We have heard DOT officials say that at some point, it may come down to the point of, you know what, we're gonna withhold, when I say we're, the state is gonna withhold any state funding from projects for airports that maybe aren't making those initial steps to get towards working towards better airport protection within the city or county, because not all airports are city-owned, some are county-owned, some are airport authorities. But until they start seeing steps towards airport protection, they may at some point withhold their portion of funding, which right now is 5%. So for those of you that are new, that haven't dealt with airports, currently for a FAA eligible project, 90% of it is covered by the FAA. You guys do incur $150,000 a year in federal entitlements. There's a bipartisan infrastructure law that's kind of ongoing right now that is added to that value. I won't go into the real specifics, but 90% federal, and then 5% comes from the state and 5% local. So I think Troy, like on a water and sewer project, he would kill for a 90% grant fund project. It's a really, really good deal. So I guess, Shannon, is there anything else we want to touch on for the discussion we had earlier? I think it was, like I said, it was really preliminary. This is something that's going to take time. This isn't something that's going to happen in a couple meetings or a month. This is something that may take a year to get through, or two. I mean, it honestly.
I guess the only other thing I would add, and why we had Mitch as Public Safety Commissioner and Planning and Zoning in there, is ultimately this is part of the comprehensive plan as well that they've been working on for a few years, but we would have to put it as part of our comprehensive plan, so we would want them involved as they begin reconstructing that plan that the city has that helps us with our grants and everything that we get.
So yeah, that's kind of all is there any questions on kind of the airport protections / the horrible Z word and zoning? A lot of people get kind of nervous when you say zoning, but that's just the title of their document. But
Mike, did you set a date for the next meeting with the county officials?
we have not. No, this was just kind of some open dialogue, and it's, like I said, they're very receptive. The big thing is we're protecting the approach procedures or approach surfaces off of your primary runway, and they looked at it and they said, this makes sense, but this isn't something that's going to happen overnight. We'll certainly have more talks with them, and whenever we're invited to discuss this more in depth with them, I offered to certainly come down and attend a commission meeting if need be. But I would suspect in the next couple months or something, we'd probably get together again.
Yeah. So we initially invited Janice Weber, the Director of Equalization, because she's ultimately who we communicate with building permits and everything. She had asked if she could bring a commissioner with her, and she did bring Cody Jorgensen with her. If Finance Committee remembers, I did bring up that we'd be having this meeting at the last Finance Committee meeting, and you guys are more than welcome to come to the next one as well. And so when that's scheduled, I will send that message out to my committee to let them know, or whomever wants to come at that point in time too.
Yeah, no, it worked out well. Since I was in town for the bid letting earlier today, it worked out really well. And like I said, really good preliminary discussion, and hopefully that continues moving forward.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Schmidt.
All right, next I'll talk on the bid letting that we had today. So we had open bids today for the airport pavement maintenance project. Now typically, airport pavement maintenance projects for smaller, or I should say general aviation airports, non-commercial airports, the state does a statewide program where they ask the city to transfer their entitlements to the, each city's entitlements to the state. They do a big statewide project and manage that from start to finish. The problem is this year's statewide pavement maintenance project really didn't have the type of work that's happening at Winter, so it doesn't really the economy of scale stuff doesn't really make sense. It didn't matter if you guys did a standalone project or if you did a project in conjunction with the state. Second part is utilizing your bipartisan infrastructure law money. Those are not allowed to be transferred to the state, so it kind of geared it more towards just a standalone project. So what we have out there is we have a few concrete panels to replace on a hangar taxi lane. We've got some joint sealants, some spall repairs, some tie bar retrofits where some panels have kind of pulled apart a little bit and have a little bit of a gap there, so there's a tie bar retrofit aspect to it. Some pavement markings, just kind of a cleaning things up. If you remember, a couple years ago, we did one on the runway. You know, this is something you're gonna wanna be looking at doing probably every 4 to 5 years, just catching up with maintenance. The original runway was constructed in 2006-ish or 5-ish, so it's getting to be about 20 years old, so it's just doing your runway's fine, there's no much crack panels, but you gotta keep up with the joint sealing and stuff like that to prolong the life of it. We had 3 bids today. 2 South Dakota companies and 1 from Nebraska. And this should be in, I think you guys have copies of this, the bid tabulation. So Rex Winkle Concrete was the low bid. However, if you look at their mobilization price, the FAA limits mobilization to 10% of the project costs. So they did not meet the bid standards per the FAA. So therefore, it is our recommendation in our engineer's recommendation letter that the city council reject that bid due to its non-conformance. And the second low bid is from Screed Tech LLC out of Fairbury, Nebraska. We do recommend that. This isn't a company that I've worked with before, but it seems like they work there in Nebraska, and they do this airport pavement maintenance is one of their services that they provide. Everything seemed to be complete within their bid conformance for everything. They did meet the DBE goal, which eliminates a step of getting a good faith effort from them. So that is part of our recommendation, is to recommend the bid award to that. Unfortunately, my engineer's estimate was about $120,195, so it is about 33% over the engineer's estimate. There is your amount of federal funding available is sufficient to cover this project. There's no worry about that. And just to kind of run the numbers for you, so based on so then the last page is my revised engineer's estimate, which has construction, engineering, and everything. And I'm gonna go ahead and point it out so no one has to ask the question, is the design engineering looks really, really high. The problem is as part of this project, we're also doing a level 3 cultural survey at the airport, which is a survey for artifacts, stuff like that. And that's about half of our design fee, actually more than half of our design fee, is to do that cultural survey. Now, that is something that is a one and done. You'll never have to do that again, but in order to get environmental clearance for future projects, you have to do this survey. So while the time was good to do this, let's get that done this time, and so all the future projects on the airport don't require a cultural survey anymore. You still have to do wetlands and things like that for particular projects, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing that you have to do. I'm gonna stop right there, because I think maybe there's some questions out there.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the dumb question.
Don't, go ahead.
Based on what you were saying, it sounds like in the past, the state has gone in and helped with some of these projects. It's like on their slate to do in other communities as well. Is that what you're kind of getting at?
They just help coordinate it. So, and we've been involved with it for probably, out of the last 27 years, we've been involved with it probably 25 of those years. This year, we were not. What they do is they just help manage it. They don't provide additional funding for it. They utilize your airport available monies. They just assemble the plans, the specs, and just assemble the project management portion of it, is what the state does. If there was other concrete work in this year's pavement maintenance project, it would have made way more sense depending on the value. This is gonna be pushing what you had available on entitlements, but it would have made sense for you to participate in the statewide pavement maintenance program.
Yep.
But because of the scope of the work was totally different, then there's no other airports doing any concrete work, it didn't make sense.
And we needed to utilize our bill money.
And we're trying to utilize some of your bill money, because if you don't spend it by next year, you lose it. And that just goes away. You don't get it back.
That's helpful, thank you.
Our cost share, Chandra, would be then what?
That's what I was just gonna get to those numbers. So out of a
Okay, sorry.
$265,000 total project, $238,500 is federal, $13,250 is covered by the state, and $13,250 is covered locally.
And
So-
yes, those funds are available.
Good.
I think I hit
So,
everything.
You had said you have never worked with this Screed Tech,
They're out of southern Nebraska. yeah.
Right.
Nope.
have you heard anything about them?
I did as much Google searching as I could this afternoon. They're not required to submit like references or anything that I can call. They got bonded, which is probably one of the big things. First of all, just getting a bid bond and being able to bid a project. Now, this is not dollars and cents wise is not well, I hate to even say that because, you know, 140,000, 160,000 is still a lot of money. I don't care who you are. But, and Troy might agree with me on this, $160,000 in the construction side of things doesn't get you much anymore.
But you said that the FAA requires a 10%, no more than 10% on mobilization.
Correct.
I
Correct.
guess I'm curious, why do these other two go away so high?
That's a good question.
If that's a standard in the
So,
business or contract.
yep, so in the FAA world, that 10% mobilization rule is not everywhere. That's an FAA specification.
Right.
I don't think the DOT mandates a maximum on mobilization that I'm aware of. And mobilization most people look at mobilization and they say, this is what it costs me to bring my personnel and my equipment to the job site. Or maybe it's to cover for hotels and meals and things like that for the duration of the project. I'd like to say that's what it's for, but sometimes it's more in depth. It's the bonds, the insurance. It's kind of a catch-all because it's a lump sum item on a bid form. So if you look at that bid tabulation, you know, I only have 12
So we
items.
only had one valid bid.
We only had one valid bid, yes.
Who was the third one?
Third one was Anderson Contractors out of Pier, and you can see by the dollar amount, I don't think they were,
I don't think I got that sheet.
I just handed it to you.
What's that one?
I'm not sure they were overly aggressive with it.
You think?
The hard part is contractors are getting full.
Okay.
We've got we talked about your airport being unique and the amount of medical flights you guys see out there, your UPS deliveries. We don't want to sit there and be shut down the runway shut down for 2 weeks while we mess around. So, you know, we didn't put overly strict completion dates or timeframes that this work has to be completed, but we had to put, one day is too long for, for Dave. Dave's like, I don't want this shut down at all, but.
Is there any different pouring concrete on the runway than there is pouring concrete on the street?
Not really. The specifications for concrete are different, but this is on a hangar taxi, and we're not bound as just a panel replacement. We don't have to use what we call as the P501 specification. It's a pretty stout spec, but it's the process. No, it's no different than what TNR or Reedy did on the highway, stuff like that.
You wouldn't be concerned if Reedy bid this?
No, I tried to get them to. They were just busy. They wouldn't do it.
That's not their specialty, but laying concrete's laying concrete.
Yep,
That's
yep.
what I'm trying to ask you.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, see, like if a Reedy would've got it, they would've probably did the panel replacement, and they would've hired out all the ceiling and the small repairs. Or maybe they'd have done some of it.
Okay, thank you.
But the contractors are they're getting full for the year. They're busy, which plays into it. And the problem is the longer you progress this, as we mentioned, next year you're gonna start losing bill funding and things are gonna get worse. So now, instead of this amount of pavement maintenance, there's probably a certain percentage that's gonna increase every year you go on without doing it.
Mike, the question was asked as well. Did the bidders know about that 10% on mobilization? And that was in the bid spec,
Yes, that
correct?
was in the bid specifications, yep. So the other thing I'll mention is like the two bidders, Anderson and Rex Winkle. It's been a long time, I think, since I've worked with Anderson, but I've worked with, in fact, Jamie Rex Winkle poured the first apron expansion out at the airport a few years back as a subcontractor. So he's not worried about that as a subcontractor. It's the prime submitting the bid that has to worry about that 10% rule. And quite honestly, that 10% rule isn't something that's been around forever. That has recently changed in the last probably 5 or 6 years, so.
But that 160,000 is primarily all grant, covered by grant?
90% of it's covered by grant, yep. 5% of it's covered by local, City of Winter, and 5% is from the state.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Shannon, do you want me to hang around for new business? I
Well,
can't.
you probably better, yeah.
Yep,
You're
that's
not
fine.
going anywhere anyway.
No.
Too late to drive home. We have hotels that collect tax for us, so.
And I've utilized them.
Appreciate you
That I
staying.
have.
Okay, at this time, we'll go into a public hearing for a special event
We do
application.
have to do the full bid opening readings.
I'm sorry,
The bid opening, we do have to do the full reading on that.
what meeting?
I have to give all the names and their total prices.
Okay, all right, so I'm learning this too. At this time, we'll ask Chandra to read the bid openings, please.
3 bids were received for the city of Winter, as we've already discussed. The first bid was for Rexwinkle Concrete Incorporated out of Corsica, South Dakota. The total bid was $141,093.52. The second bid was from Screed, SCREED Tech LLC from Fairbury, Nebraska. Their total bid was $160,500. The third bid was Anderson Contractors Incorporated from Pierre. Total bid was $296,725. As Mike mentioned earlier, it is the recommendation from our engineers to award the bid to Screed Tech LLC in the total amount of $160,500 due to the other bids, including the lowest bid, not conforming to the bid specs.
Now, is it okay to move forward? Okay, thank you. All right, so now we'll have this public hearing for a special event application from the Black Lab at St. Mary's Hall on June 8th and 9th for Spring Fest. Is anybody here to, or first we need to have a motion,
No, public hearing first. We need-
public hearing first, okay. Is anybody here to speak on this issue or to speak against this issue? Seeing and hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the application from Back Lab to St. Mary's Hall for June 8th and 9th for Spring Fest.
Moved by Skylar, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Clunt? So it's been motioned by Skylar, second by Clunt, to hold a public hearing for a special event application from the Black Lab to approve the special event application for the Black Lab to St. Mary's Hall on June 8th and 9th for Spring Fest. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor and Council, everything in the finance office has been received and is ready to go.
Any other discussion on that? Okay. So in the matter of granting a special event application from the Black Lab to St. Mary's Hall, June 8th and 9th for Spring Fest. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. There is no Board of Adjustment tonight under old business. Is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to amend the May 6, 2024 minutes to reflect the mayor, that Mayor Schramm appointed Troy Kruger as the Public Works Director.
I would second that.
Motion by Clay, second by Hughes, to amend the May 6, 2024 minutes to reflect that Mayor Schramm appointed Troy Kruger as Public Works Director. Is there any discussion on this matter?
The minutes showed that he was appointed as the Public Safety Commissioner. Obviously, I stated that incorrectly. He was the Public Works Director
Are you sure
appointee.
you don't want to change it up?
What would you like to be, Troy? Okay, all in favor of this amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just going along with you, Brad. I said-
Okay, attaboy. Attaboy. Okay, motion carries. Troy Kruger will be known as the Public Works Director, okay? Item number 2, is there a motion?
I make a motion that, with agreement with Frontline Warning Systems for the annual maintenance on fire sirens, and have the mayor sign.
I'd second that, Mr. Mayor.
Any discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor, could Troy, what is your recommendation on that?
Mr. Kruger, yes, please.
So I called Adam with Frontline, and we had a pretty good conversation. Basically, we need, the city, and I've talked to Mitch about this. This is ultimately Mitch's department.
Okay.
So we do need to get back into the habit of checking out our, these pieces of equipment, make sure that the batteries are operating and the chargers are working and all that. Basically, there's about 50% that's software and 50% that's hardware. My department's with the electrician and everything, the guys down at the North Shop, we can easily do this work. I think as far as the contract itself goes, from what I understood, is what you're getting a guarantee that you're going to have your devices up and working within 48 hours. So, there's a lot that we can do, I think, as far as helping ourselves if something goes wrong with one of these, but there's also the aspect that having those guys come out and plug into them twice a year, they are going to be able to troubleshoot some of those issues by doing that. And that's just stuff that we're not going to be able to handle internally. So other than that, as far as when something goes wrong, paying them to come out, we'll make every effort to get them up and working before we make that phone call and tell them that we need them here. But I think there is some, discussion we had in cabinet. I think there's some value to that, being able to have that guarantee that they will be here within 48, they will have them up and going within 48 hours. But that was the discussion, basically.
Very good, thank you,
I appreciate
Troy.
looking into that more. I know we had questions on it, so that clears a lot of that up. It sounds like you talked with your internal folks and they feel comfortable doing some of the maintenance on them, just maybe not as much of the servicing on a regular basis.
Yeah,
Accurate.
I know there was a pretty good system a couple years ago, it sounds like, where we had a guy from the North Shop that was going around and he was doing that. I recommend that we start a file again, and, I talked to Adam about different, maybe putting in some lithium batteries and things like that. He suggested that not to spend the money on that. He just said he's got a contract with Interstate Battery, just deep cycle batteries. He actually told me that if we have the batteries ready to go when he comes every year, they'll actually install them for us, make sure that they're installed correctly, and then they do their testing after that installation's done. But I think we just need to get back into some routine maintenance on those, and I'd be happy to coordinate that with Mitch, and we'll get going on it.
Mitch, is that your recommendation too?
It is.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Very good, thank you, Troy. So do we have a motion?
We do. We have a motion on the table.
Okay, thank you, all right. So on the motion by Shaheen, second by Miners, on an agreement with Frontline Warning Systems for annual maintenance on our fire sirens, and to have the mayor sign that contract. We'll do a roll call vote. Clay,
Yes.
Miners,
Yes.
Clunt,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Skylar,
Aye.
Shaheen.
Yeah.
All ayes, this motion carries. On to sign the agreement with Frontline Warning Systems for annual maintenance on our fire sirens. Item number 3. Is there a motion?
I'll make
Mr. Mayor, I got a question.
Okay,
I want to make sure,
We can't have a discussion without.
oh, I'm sorry, yeah, we have to either have a motion or not.
okay,
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-13, a resolution amending the personnel policy book.
Very good. Motion by Clunt, is there a second? This resolution will die for lack of a second. Item number 4. Is there a motion on this?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to accept the quit claim deed from Richard and Sandy Lewis for S68.60, I don't know what the, south 68 feet and 68 inch, I don't know, S68.68 of tracks D and E, subdivisions of lot 6, Smooks Outlot, City of Winter.
Is there a second to that difficult motion?
I second that.
Okay, at least you don't have to read it, Mr. Miners.
Well, I do better than him.
Yeah, I know that.
So we have a motion and a second to accept the quitclaim deed from Richard and Sandy Lewis for the south 68.68 feet of tracks D and E, subdivisions of lot 16, Smooks Outlot, City of Winter, which is kitty corner from Lamro Apartments in the eastern section of town. We'll have a roll call vote on this. Is there any questions on this? Everybody understands where it's at? Okay, very good. Miners,
Yes.
Clunt,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Skylar,
Aye.
Shaheen,
Yes.
and Clay.
Yes.
This motion carries unanimously. Okay, under new business, number 1. Once again, I made an error when we made the calculations on the starting salary for Mitch Miller. And is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to amend the wages of Mitch Miller to $74,984.19 due to incorrect starting wage scale being used effective May 20, 2024.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to amend the wages of Mitch Miller, Public Safety Commissioner, to $74,984.19 due to incorrect starting wage scale being used effective May 20th, 2024. This will be retroactive to the date he started. All in favor, say,
Please.
okay,
Mr.
roll
Mayor.
call you want?
No, I just
Oh.
have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
What happened? Did we just read
Yep.
it, look at it wrong, looked at the old scale?
I started at the wrong year of starting wage, correct.
Okay. I don't know if he's worth
I'm sorry?
it. Just the, I was just curious what happened.
You don't know if he's worth it? Yeah, he's been on the job for 3 weeks.
3
Yeah,
weeks, he's
yeah.
getting a raise already?
$500 a day raise.
Yeah.
Doing pretty good.
But it was just simply, it was the
Yep.
wage
When I asked for
scale.
the starting wage, I was given a number, and from that, as you know, we have the 8 years maximum of experience in factoring what your starting wage would be. And if you start with the wrong number, you end up with the wrong number, and that's what I did here, so apologize for that. In defense of that, he agreed to work for the smaller wage, so do what you want. This gets it correct, and just corrects the mistake that I made in the beginning. That sheet that I handed you, you saw the calculations, but if you start with the wrong number, you're gonna end up with the wrong number, and that's what I did.
I don't know what all we can talk about because we had an executive session on some of that.
Oh,
So
okay.
kind of hindered of what we can talk about right now.
Yep. But that's why it should be 74 instead of what we agreed to pay.
I guess we can simply have a yes or no vote. Mr. Mayor, can we have a roll call vote on it? Yeah,
We can if you like, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will have a roll call vote.
It's just that we're hindered of actually what we can have a discussion about
You can
because
always
of,
motion to go into executive.
Okay, so we will do a roll call vote on this motion to amend the wages of Mitch Miller to $74,984.19. Okay, Miners,
Yes.
Clunt,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Skylar,
Aye.
Shaheen,
Yes.
and Clay.
yes.
All ayes. Thank you for fixing my mistake.
Wet noodle.
Okay, item number 2. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the street closure application for CCI on North Monroe Street between First and Second Street on Wednesday, July 24th, 2024 for a fundraiser.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'd second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Clunt, second by Clay, to approve the street closure application for CCI on North Monroe Street between First and Second Street on Wednesday, July 24th, 2024, for a fundraiser. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. It carries.
So I have a question. Can I ask now?
Nope.
Not now.
Sorry. Item number 3, is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the street closure application for the Winter Area Chamber on July 19th, 2024.
June 19?
June, sorry.
Yep, it's okay.
Clearly says that.
Is there a second to that motion?
I would second that.
Clay and Hughes. Councilman Clay made a motion, second by Councilman Hughes, to approve the street closure application for the Winter Chamber on June 19th, 2024. Is there any discussion?
Yes, because my question's relevant to them. So what is the city ordinance? Is it like, when we grant that, is it like from 8 to 5, or is it, do they put the times on there, or what do we?
Yes.
They have to put the times on the request?
I'm going to defer to Chandra on that.
Yes, so it's a policy that the city of Winter has, not necessarily an ordinance, but ultimately, there's multiple things that they have to follow. First of all, they work with Public Works, they work with Public Safety to make sure that they are being safe, Public Works to make sure that they have the proper barricades. What they are required to do is put in the date, the location, and the time, and the reason. I do believe that it does limit it in that policy. You can't go past 10 p.m. We have allowed, through a council motion, to go past 10 p.m. if full council approves that, but typically it's not past 10 p.m. In the case of the first one, it is 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., Wednesday, July 24th. In the case of this one, it is 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. on the second block of Main Street, so between 3rd and 4th Street. And then on the next one, it is between, and this is a different one because it is for the barbecue pit row, 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. On Main Street, 2nd through 5th Street.
Thank you for the clarification, that's all I need.
And Councilman Miners, those answers are also included in your packet. Okay. Okay, so I will call the question then on approving the street closure for the Winter Chamber on June 19th, 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Item number 4, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve to waive the rental fee of $675 to Elmas Mall for the use of the community center.
Item number 4.
Oh, I thought that's what we
Yep,
just.
you're one line too far down.
Approve the street closure application for the Winter Area Chamber on July 27th, 2024.
And
Motion by Clunt, is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I will second that motion.
Okay, Mr. Clay. Motion by Clunt, second by Clay to approve the street closure application for the Winter Area Chamber on July 27th, 2024. All in favor, or is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, just as a reminder, I know I mentioned it in the other motions, but this is from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Main Street between 2nd Street and 5th Street, so several blocks, including the side streets on 3rd for half a block on each of those.
The time again on that was?
4 a.m. to
4
10 p.m. is for barbecue pit row.
Okay.
Sometimes stating that makes a difference on what we're talking about.
Okay, any other discussion? Thank you for that, Chandra. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Hope all of you will attend. Item number 5, do we have a motion?
I make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we waive the rental fee of $675 to Almus Mall for the use of the community center for the local powwow.
Motion by Shaheen, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Clunt. We'll do a roll call on this.
What was in the budgeted?
So you did not budget to donate anything this year, and there will be no check written.
Okay.
Ultimately, the total amount was $675 plus $175 for a deposit. She did pay the $175 after the event. Everything was in good order. She received her $175 deposit back because it was in good order. So I see no reason why you couldn't waive this fee for her. There is no money being exchanged for this. Now that we have our new system, I know that this is probably what you're referring to. I like that back and forth paper trail. When we just had an Excel spreadsheet for an invoice, there wasn't a good paper trail of council writing off a bill other than, yes, we have a motion, but this new system allows us to adjust it off based off of council motion on such and such date, and then we have that paper trail that allows us to show that to our auditors why we're writing it off.
We have something in our budget that must read similar to this, but it's different.
You used to, in years previous, you
This
did
year's
budgets.
budget I'd seen in '24.
No, this year was a 0, but previous years you did 750, you did 500. This year it is 0.
I thought there was a 400 number in there, 4.25, 475. I don't remember, but anyway, either way.
You remember too much stuff, Councilman Clay.
Sometimes I remember incorrectly also.
Welcome to my world, yep. So we have a motion by Clay, or Shaheen, and a second by Clunt to waive the rental fee of $675 to Alma Small for use of the community center for the local powwow. We'll do a roll call vote. Clunt,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Skylar,
Aye.
Shaheen,
Yes.
Clay,
Yes.
and Miners.
Yes.
This motion passes with all ayes to waive the rental fee of $675 to Alma Small for use of the community center for the local powwow. Item number 6. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion for first reading of ordinance 1077, an ordinance creating a supplemental budget for the capital improvement fund for the Bailey's complex improvements in the amount of $128,810.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been motioned by Skylar, second by Clunt, to approve first reading of ordinance number 1077, an ordinance creating a supplemental budget for the capital improvement fund for the Bailey's complex improvements in the amount of $128,810. Any discussion?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Mr.
Troy, this is
Shaheen.
what we discussed before, where there is a portion of this by grant money.
Yes, it's 50/50 grant, so,
Okay.
So is this our half, or are we paying half of this?
That's the full amount.
Okay,
So you have to.
we'll get reimbursed half. We got to pay it up front. Yep, okay.
The reason it says capital improvement fund is because we're creating a 500 capital improvement fund, so it's not part of Parks' budget. In case they don't get it all spent this year, or something happens, it can easily encumber over because it is a contract that we have with them. So it'll be separate and apart, its own project, own capital improvement fund. Yes, you have to spend the full 128 in order to get your reimbursement. It is possible that it may be next year, depends on when they're able to get the equipment set up. When I spoke with Randy Kittle from the state, he is who our grant person is that we talk with on this particular grant. Once it's installed, everything's installed, ready to go, he comes down, he inspects it, makes sure that it's good to his standards, and then he submits the reimbursement request on our behalf to the feds.
Easily encumbered is the key.
Yes, it is.
Any other discussion, questions? So on the motion to approve first reading of ordinance 1077, creating a supplemental budget for the capital improvement fund for the Bailey's complex improvements in the amount of $128,810. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. This motion carries. Item number 7, is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to award the 2024 airport pavement maintenance bid to,
Mr. Minor, would you mind reading the first paragraph on that page I handed you at the beginning of the meeting? Thank you.
tentative award for the AIP project number 3-46-0061-022-24 airport pavement maintenance. Base bid is made to Screed Tech LLC, Fairbury, Nebraska, in the amount of $160,500 contingent upon the receipt of an FAA grant offer.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Moved by Minor, second by Clunt, to tentatively award the AIP project number 3-46-0061-022-2024 airport pavement maintenance base bid is made to Screed Tech LLC, Fairbury, Nebraska, in the amount of $160,500 contingent upon receipt of an FAA grant offer. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oh, I'm sorry, this tells me I'm supposed to do a roll call, I'm sorry.
And if you have any questions.
Is there any questions to this motion? Any discussion? Okay, with that, Councilman Hughes,
Yes.
Skylar,
Aye.
Shaheen, Clay,
Yes.
Miners,
Yes,
and Clunt.
Yes.
This motion carries with all ayes. Okay. Now that takes me to item number 8, which I wasn't smart enough to write in my notes. Is that the grant motion?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion? It's on your piece of paper in front of you, whoever wants to make it.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to authorize you to sign the FAA grant application, FAA grant offer, and all necessary paperwork and for the construction contract documents.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'd second that.
Motion by Skylar, second by Hughes, to authorize the mayor to sign the FAA grant application, the FAA grant offer, and all necessary paperwork for the construction contract documents. Is there any discussion on this?
It will need a roll call.
Okay, very good, thank you. This will be a roll call vote. We'll start off with Skylar.
Aye.
Shaheen.
Aye.
Clay.
Yes.
Miners.
yes.
Clunt.
Yes.
And Hughes.
Yes.
Okay, this motion passes unanimously to authorize the mayor to sign the FAA grant application, the FAA grant offer, and all necessary paperwork for the construction contract documents. Okay, then item number 9, we have or 10, I guess it is.
Make a
Claims.
motion
We have to add $2,000 to the claims to pay our attorney according to his contract. That was left off of this month's claims sheet that you received. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to pay the claims with the addition of $2,000 to the city attorney Mason Droshik.
I'd second that.
Motion by Clunt, second by Hughes, to pay the claims with the addition of $2,000 to Mason Jurachik, city attorney. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. I'm told we don't need an executive session. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Clunt, second by
Skylar.
Skylar. All in favor, stand up and leave the room.
Aye. Dan, thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dan.